What's going on out there, Roadrunners? Welcome to episode 187 of the Audible Podcast. This is your host, Jared. As you can tell, my voice is still on the mend from an absolutely wild week one for the UTSA Roadrunners. So bear with me. My voice gives out. I got my little lemon water over here to soothe my throat as we go through it. And Adrian, thank you for joining me as always as co-host. Hopefully your voice is in better shape than mine because I know that we were going pretty hard in the stands through four quarters and three overtimes.
We were going hard. I want to say it was definitely, I think, my most consistent showing as a fan. Every single defensive play, I banged that sign and I was screaming.
You gave relentless effort, man. Relentless
effort. Yeah, it was out of control. And I think I only got a little bit too high R-rated there with the the screaming for just a short part. But for the most part, I think I did pretty good as a fanning. And Alamo Dome altogether, man, incredible job fanning. There was no artificial noise in there. It was loud. It was proud. It was electric environment. I mean, just outstanding to be back in that building. But I got to tell you, man, I mean, your voice is still hurt spiritually from the loss. I mean, it was tough, dude, just tough. And it's lingered for sure.
I feel like you really embodied the triangle of toughness with your fanning in the stands. Having sat next to you is incredible work for sure. Only culture pillar violation was on my part because that last drive at the end of regulation, I turned to Adrian and I was like, why is Oscar on the field? He's not going to be able to run down for a touchdown in 20 seconds. And then sure enough, he makes the catch to get Jared Sackett into field goal range and tie the game. So huge culture pillar violation on my part, man. Oscar's just so clutch.
Yeah. And we forgive it. Sometimes we make mistakes here on the podcast. And yeah, in real time, head scratcher. But dude, what an unbelievable snag that was. Oh, what a thrilling moment, a thrilling back and forth. Dude, gosh. And we started getting into those back and forth overtimes. I was getting 5 overtime flashbacks of the UTEP, and I was like, oh man, it's happening all over again. So just electric though. Electric scene, man. An electric scene on Saturday.
Yeah, before we start to break down kind of the X's and O's and the takeaways and the newcomers and all that stuff, I kind of want to talk about pregame experience. I mean, first of all, it was so great to see everybody again, to meet so many new subscribers for the first time. It's always a real blessing. So thank you, all of you guys that stopped us in the lots and said hi. Man, too many to name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Ian, Quentin, man, Melissa, thank all of you guys for saying hi and introducing yourselves. It's always a real delight.
Absolutely. Some of those long overdue. And we always meet new faces every single year that we've communicated with on social media for long before that, right? Going back several seasons. And so it's really cool every single year that we see more and more faces. And yeah, I mean, look, we had a lot of things kind of going against the tailgate crowd with the early kickoff, with the suspect weather conditions, not really sure what to expect. Game one, everyone's always kind of a little bit of unknown whenever it comes to game one. And so I remember, we had the absolute pleasure of being a part of the alumni tailgate. We did a pregame show, which we'll mention in a second, but before that started, which it started at noon, before that started, we kind of did a round around the tailgate lots about 11:15, 11:30, and it was pretty docile. Man, it was about an hour later that we returned to the lot C, lot B scene at about 12:30, 12:45, and man, it was jam-packed. It looked like it was like week 6, week 7, middle conference play. And yeah, what a scene it was. And you could tell, oh man, it's going to be packed. And there was a lot of red shirts everywhere, just as there was orange, even in the tailgate lots, right? A U of H fan was making their presence. And so you knew it was about to be a whole scene inside of that stadium, man. Yeah, it was the stage was set for sure.
Yeah, everyone that I talked to that runs a tailgate was like, man, we were slammed from like 12 to kickoff, right? Could barely get away, right, to make the round. So that was awesome to see.
That dinner rush, right? That free kickoff rush, right? Everyone just kind of got there. And it was cool to kind of see that just lift all up at the same time.
It was also cool to see how many fans went into the dome like really early, right? Like usually 15 minutes to kickoff, it starts to fill in a little bit, but man, a full 30 minutes to kickoff, it's like a full lower section. That was amazing to see. I mean, I guess people showed up early to see the championship banner unfurl, which I don't know. Should we talk about it now or later? I guess that's pre-kickoff. So
I mean, sure, right? I mean,
section.
everyone was, I think that was a big incentive to get people into the stadium. You know, they talked about the towels, but that was a pretty last minute thing. I don't know if a lot of people knew about the towels. And they weren't even like really well advertised, giving those towels out at the door. But I think everyone sort of knew about the banner. People were really excited about that. So you had that kind of rush getting in. I think there was also just like some general wherewithal to the UTSA audience of like, we need to get inside the Alamo Dome early to avoid the crazy. Because if you remember last season, man, if you were waiting to 20 minutes before kickoff to get inside the stadium, dude, I mean, those lines were crazy. It was all the way down the ramp to the lower level where the bus drop-off is. And you could be standing there well into the first quarter before you got into the stadium and got to your seats. It was real fluid this year. People were moving. They got everyone in through security check. Everyone was getting into the stadium through the doors. And sure enough, dude, even the student section was filled up before kickoff.
Man, that was wild.
Dude.
Literally full. I
Totally.
don't think that this was like really publicized, but I heard that the student section completely ran out of seats. They had to send kids up to the 300 level.
It sure
because
looked like
students were like just starting to like take random seats because there were no seats available in the student section. Did you ever think that there would come a day where the student section allotment was too small?
Man, there was like a tweet 45 minutes before kickoff of a picture of inside the student section, and I couldn't see an empty seat for rows all the way up to the top to the back wall. Wow, I was like, oh man, baby, we showed up. The whole army came out. So I mean, what a fantastic first game experience too. If you're a freshman, that was your first UTSA game. Oh man, and I think we got a lot of that. So my aunt and uncle that live in San Antonio that I always stay with, they're U of H alumni, right? And I had the pleasure of going to, well, I don't know about the pleasure, but I went to Cracker Barrel with a bunch of like 70s U of H alumni after the game. And there was like 6 or 7 like late 70s Cougar alum all day. Dude, and they were just raving about the experience of UTSA football game day at the Alamo Dome, the tailgating, the atmosphere inside the stadium, how impressive the team was, how impressive the coach was, the quarterback. I mean, they just had nothing but glowing things to say about their first UTSA football experience. And this is a team that's going to the Power 5, right? This is who we aspire to be. And this is their fan base admiring our game day experience, which, dude, I haven't been to a game at U of H, but I'd imagine Alamo Dome experience blows it out the water, blows a lot of places out the water. And man, I don't think we know how spoiled we are with what we have for UTSA.
Man, I tell people that all the time. I mean, most people don't travel to other stadiums. They don't travel to other campuses. Man, UTSA is in such a good situation with the Alamo Dome and being right in the heart of downtown and all that stuff. Man, we've got it good. Go check out the opening of Snapdragon Stadium for San Diego State this past weekend. See how that one went. And then if you still think UTSA needs an on-campus stadium, holler at me after watching that. What a disaster. People passing out of heat stroke and all that.
Unfreaking believable, man. Yeah, and yeah, we totally don't have any idea, but this is absolute one of the best college football game day experiences, I think, in the country, is right here at the Alamo Dome, man. And that was a reminder of it. The end of last season was a reminder of it, but that freaking Saturday afternoon was an absolute reminder of it. That place was electric, man.
Yeah, so let's talk about the banner unfurling, man. That was a little scuffed, I thought. I don't think that there was a dramatic pause for that banner to come down, and everyone's looking around like, oh, what's going on here? Did they lose it? Did it fall down?
I think we just going for the countdown with anything that's like you're just trying to do. It's a bold move, right? There's no reason to try and pull off the countdown. Like, just get everyone to look that way. Play the song. What's the reason to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? It's not necessary. Just have everyone's attention directed to it and let the suspense build naturally, right? And the longer we wait, the more suspenseful it is. Without the countdown, that wait is epic. With the countdown, that wait is a terrible fail, right? So, yeah, there's no reason for the countdown. And right when they started doing it, I was like, oh no, if this thing doesn't come down right at 1, it's going to be bad. It didn't.
Well, while the reveal might have been a little off, I guess we could say, I thought the banner itself looked really nice, right? It was bigger than I expected.
Yes, they got the size right for sure. The thing is enormous, man. And you can see it from wherever you are in the Alamo Dome. That's a big place. right? Yeah, it's great. I love that it's a nice big bright orange. You can really kind of see it. It's loud. I wish it was on the metal rafters. That'll be
That's how
my
I feel too.
only
Oh no.
that'll be my only qualm with the banner is I wish it was hanging from the metal rafters. It looks like it's more of like a piece that the curtain is attached to, that it hangs on, like the curtain rod is what it sits on rather than the beams of the actual structure of the stadium. Oh man, can we get it on those, please? I mean, we're going to be there for at least 13 more seasons. So, I mean, come on, get it on the beams, baby. Maybe we need 2 of them to get on the beams.
Yeah, maybe so. It's, you know, it's disappointing. Like Bad Bunny's playing the Alamo Dome in 2 days, or I guess 1 day, depending on when you're listening on this. And like, man, like, you know, they're probably not going to have the temporary curtain up for the Bad Bunny show, right? So people are not going to see the banner then.
That's a bummer.
Nice. I mean, I guess that's the downside of the Alamo Dome setup, right? Is it has to be a general use facility for the city of San Antonio, which has its downsides, obviously, but I would not trade it.
Right, of course,
for a non-dome on-campus stadium for sure.
1,000% right. And that's another conversation that came up at that Cracker Barrel dinner. It's like, I wonder if they'll build an on-campus stadium. And I'm like, do you hear how ecstatic you guys are about the game y'all just had to witness at the Alamo Dome? Why would we entertain that whenever this is people's feedback, right? Whenever this is what people are having, the experience that they're having. So yeah, it's just the best freaking place in the world to go watch a football game, and seeing those masts and those steeples and seeing the Union Pacific come by 45 minutes before tail. I mean, it is a whole vibe that you don't get anywhere else, man. Iconic, bro. Beautiful.
Yeah, well said. Well, you mentioned earlier that we were at the Alumni Association tailgate. Actually, my first time going to the Alumni Association tailgate for a home game.
Nice.
So that was cool. A very different experience to what I'm used to with the debauchery, you know, out lot C and lot B for sure. But it was great. Yeah, I want to say thanks again to the Alumni Association for having us out. Thanks to Drew Addison for moderating the discussion and doing a great job of kind of leading that panel, and to Miles Benning, who was up there with us. And it was a great discussion. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate everyone who came out to the Alumni Association tailgate. I know that we were conflicting with the Spirit Walk, so it means a lot that you know, people listen to us ramble on for a couple of minutes instead of going to the Spirit Walk. So thanks again for everyone that came out, and thanks to the Alumni Association for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, it was ton of fun. Big shout out to Miles Benning. His stories were just fabulous. He was fabulous to sit down and talk with. Hopefully we can get him on the podcast as a guest some point here. It was a great experience. I had a ton of fun doing it. Big thank you to the Alumni Association. We hope to do it again with you guys. And yeah, it was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And shout out to everyone that was there and that stuck around and got to meet us after we were done with the show. Shout out to Big Roger. Shout out to Hines Ward for taking our Beat U of H pin and wearing it all 4 quarters of the game on the camera, taking pics with us. He's an absolute stand-up guy. He seems to be ecstatic to be in San Antonio. I got to talk to him right for a few seconds, right? But he was super excited to be here, to be at the game. I asked him how he liked being in San Antonio, and he really genuinely seemed excited about it. So if you don't know, he'll be the head coach and the general manager of San Antonio's new XFL team next spring, which we plan on covering here on the podcast. Big shout out Hines Ward, legend, future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, we cover the Commanders and whatever they call this team in San Antonio. We'll cover it as well.
Dude, there were people at the Alumni Association full out, no U of H, no UTSA, just Steelers head to toe, like with the hat, the jersey, the terrible towel. I mean, dude, I was like, man, I mean, yeah, people don't understand. I mean, that was a total legend that was in the building. That was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, cool. And even inside the dome, I was spotting people in Steelers gear all throughout the lower level of the bowl. So that was pretty cool.
Right. And you think, you know, it's not just a PR appearance for Hines Ward. No, he's there actually probably doing general manager duties for his future team, scouting out U of H and UTSA talent that's on that field that may not make it to the NFL, but that can still play professionally and get paid here in the XFL, maybe a few of our Roadrunners, man. And so really cool. Really cool.
Yep, definitely. So I'm going to do some Patreon shout outs real quick. But before we do that, I just want to thank everybody, because our last episode, which was our U of H game preview with the Scott and Holman podcast on as our special guest, is already in our top 4 podcast episode downloads of all time.
Unreal.
After just 6 days. It's unreal. We've been doing this for a long time. So to see that outpouring of support and interest means a lot. So thank you guys, and thank you for continuing to share the podcast with your friends and your social media and all of that. Greatly appreciate it, and we're gonna keep pumping those numbers up, baby. Just like the artificial noise in the Amadome, we gotta get those numbers up, man. by any means. But yeah, I want to say thanks to our new subscribers. We have 2 this week. Trent Lockwood, former UTSA baseball player, name popped right off the list to me when I saw him. I was like, I know who that guy is. So thanks to Trent for joining us at the Insider Tier. I got to meet him at the Meet Me Apparel tailgate as well. So Trent, thank you so much for your support. And we have a new Board of Trustees members, Brandon Grill of the Grill Realty Group. So thank you for signing up. That's Dose Meeps Tailgate coming through with 2 different tailgaters at the Board of Trustees level, man.
Epic.
Man, epic. We got to come by and do a shot with him every week. I think that's the new agreement. And they had the Chamoy shots out there, so it's fantastic. You guys be sure to stop by. Go see my lobby for the Texas Southern game. And like always, want to shout out our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Reality Road Grillers, the Bunch family, Zach Espedicueta, the San Antonio Podcast Network, as well as the rest of our Board of Trustees members, Digiteek, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Reality Tailgating, Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Burger King Tailgate, and last but certainly not least, Ray Redding of Maybe Apparel, who I finally got the chance to meet in person. I guess we'd waved each other from afar before, but we actually got to hang out, so that was great. And congrats to Ray and everyone at Maybe Apparel for selling out of all their merchandise.
Saw it everywhere. It was everywhere. It was all over the Alamo Dome. It was all over the Alamo Dome.
It was everywhere. Yeah,
everywhere you looked, you saw it, and it was looking good. Yeah, very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, my fiance looks amazing in her white bucket hat. So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, and they've got a new NIL partner as well. So they signed Jamal Liggin to an NIL deal today. So
beautiful.
Man, they're doing it right over there.
Nice. Well, dude, we got to get into it.
We set the scene. It's just like going to a game. You walk around the lots, you hit the tailgate, but now it's time to get into the meat and potatoes. High level, immediate reaction to the game. What's your first takeaway?
Dude, absolutely brutal. UTSA lost this game more than U of H won it, at least through 4 quarters of regulation. I'll give U of H winning it in overtime, but through 4 quarters of regulation, UTSA lost this game more than U of H won it. We were the better football team, man. We just didn't execute as well. We had key mistakes leading to this 37-35 loss after being up by 14 points in the latter half of the third quarter, 21-7, in full control of this football game. Jared, it comes down to 3 key moments for me spread out through the football game. Number 1, no points off of the first quarter fumble. Got the ball on the Houston 42-yard line and go 4 and out after gaining only 8 yards. The stadium's electric. It's the first quarter. I understand we got a little bit of kinks we got to work out, but man, there's just absolutely no excuse for coming away scoreless, getting the ball already in opponent territory. We didn't score off our turnover. Well, guess who did? U of H scored off their interception. And if you guys listened to the pod last week, you would have known turnovers were something that was highlighted several times and probably the key to the game and maybe what proved to be the difference. Number 2 on my list, we start the drive on the 50-yard line later after their second kickoff penalty, and they tie the game 21-21. Second kickoff penalty, we don't get a single point after starting a drive on the 50-yard line late in the game. A crucial chance to retake the lead, retake control after U of H had momentum to tie the game. They make that crucial error of kicking it out of bounds for the second time. We take over on the 50-yard line at midfield. We can't score any points. And then, of course, the 4th down penalty, substitution error, extra man on the field after UTSA stops U of H on 4th down, gets the ball back to take that ball, to take the game over. It gets overturned, and it's an automatic first down for U of H. That was absolutely brutal. There was also, I think, one moment where U of H was driving to kick that field goal to take the lead on their 10.5-minute fourth quarter drive, where Pig Cage had a potential sack there. I think you highlighted it in your film room. It was a 3rd and 5, missed that sack. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't think that one's quite as big impact as those other three that I mentioned, but
Mhm.
there's another key moment that I would put there as one of my key moments.
Well, so you really came prepared with the bullet points there. That was beautiful. Great synopsis. So first off, you made the comment right off the bat that UTSA lost this game more than UH won it. It's a big statement with how talented U of H is, how well coached they were. They played not a clean game. I think the crowd got to them. They had a lot of false starts, procedural penalties, stuff like that. They made a lot of mistakes on their part. But man, I think from a talent perspective, I think UTSA was really right there with them.
Matched up. Yes.
They matched up extremely well. But there is a statistic called post-game win probability or win expectancy. What this does is it looks at what actually happened in the game, like how the teams played, and it takes away what the actual score was and just like kind of does like a simulation, like based off the plays that we saw, the outcomes of it, which team is going to win what percentage of the time. UTSA had a 96% probability of winning with the way that they played. 96%.
Makes me
like
freaking sick.
One of my favorite college football sports writers, Bill Connolly, does like a weekly kind of like tweet or recap of like who got screwed the most. And like to get screwed really bad in your win probability post game is usually like 25%, like a 25-75, and you lost the game. Man, it is so rare to see a 96 like that. It would have to be like you're going to kick the game-winning field goal at the 10-yard line and it's blocked and returned for a touchdown. Like typically that's what you're going to see. But it wasn't like that for UTSA. I mean, I think that 12 men on the field probably changed the win probability by a significant margin, right? And maybe a couple of other plays, but UTSA really did outplay them. They didn't get the win, but I think they outplayed them. I agree with your statement. I think Houston won overtime. I think they looked a lot better in overtime than UTSA did. I think UTSA's defense was just completely gassed when it came to overtime.
Yep.
But yeah, through regulation, UTSA should have won that game. There's no question about it.
No question about it, man. No question about it. I think really what you can embody all of that into in one large thing is miscommunication. Maybe not so much miscommunication through the players on the field, but miscommunication on the sidelines amongst the coaching staff.
Yeah.
And man, dude, by far Jeff Traylor's toughest loss in his regime here at UTSA. He had a couple of mistakes, and we know he takes all of the onus in the post-game interview and press conference and today and Monday's roundtable, which of course you love to hear that. You got to hear that from your head coach, but he had some crucial errors that we haven't seen him make thus far, Jared. I mean, uncharacteristic Jeff Traylor coaching.
Yeah, and we know that there's new assistant coaches, right? And total credit to Coach Traylor for saying, look, the buck stops with me. I'm the head coach. It's my responsibility. But, I think it's another reminder that even when you promote from within, there's still a learning curve for these coaches. To have a 12th man on the field to return a punt that isn't going to happen is an inexcusable error, right? And, new special teams coach, I mean, it lost UTSA the game. I think that penalty, number one reason UTSA lost, despite everything else, Clayton Tune going off, the scrambles, the missed sacks, penalties, whatever. You take away that penalty, the game is over. UTSA was damn near in field goal position to take that would have been a 4-score lead. I don't know.
It would have been 3-score lead. Yep. Would have been over. And that was absolutely brutal. And you hear, I'm glad that you bring up the internal promotions, because you've still got to understand there's so many guys coaching in a new position for the very first game in this new position, right? And so responsibilities are totally different. Communication's got to be there. We just weren't totally settled in, a little bit in over our heads maybe, right? And we folded in that regard mentally there on that sideline staff. That's what happened. And we had tremendous errors there. And that's got to fall back on the staff. And, you appreciate them taking the onus. But we had mistakes on field too. But before we get into all of the on-field mistakes, I do want to go back to what you were saying about how well we matched up and the 96% post-game win efficiency. So win expectancy. So the thing I think that was most jarring for us, at least for me watching, was just that UTSA defensively was phenomenal.
They were crisp, man. They looked really, really good.
Everyone was gassing up this U of H offense and the output. I mean, it was a team that put 36 points up per game last season. Well, it took them 3 overtimes to put up 37 in the Alamo Dome. And dude, Tune and his passing attack, his air raid attack was pretty much completely shut down. We did a hell of a job attacking him, putting pressure on him. Maybe didn't get to home every single time, but he was feeling the burn, right? And that's how a lot of those scrambles ended up happening, because he didn't have any other choice. And dude, the UTSA defense, just hats off. They did such an unbelievable job against this team. And we were concerned about some holes in some areas. And man, I think a lot of those questions are completely answered now. There's just no worries at all. This defense is unbelievable, maybe better.
Oh yeah, I think they're going to be better on defense for sure.
Yeah,
I was just so impressed, but all around, everyone's talking about defensive line and secondary, but I thought the linebackers played amazing as well. Trey Moore in his first start,
Trey Moore was outstanding. Yes,
he made some freshman mistakes. There were a lot of times that he went too far inside on his pass rush and opened up a scramble lane for Clayton Tune. And I think there was another play where he came in the backfield a little bit out of control and missed what should have been a tackle for loss. We actually saw that a couple times from a couple different Roadrunners. And then Donye Taylor steps up big time at outside linebacker as well.
Huge.
Man, I've been telling people for a while that, I've talked to people from Shiner and they all said that Donye is 10 times the athlete that Adrian is, right? But Adrian's football IQ has been so good. His instincts have been so great as soon as he got to campus, right? So now you're seeing that light come on for Donye, and I think Coach Traylor said in his roundtable today that Adrian's like a second coach for Donye. He's always coaching him up, right?
Right.
You're starting to see that light come on. Instead, there were 2 different plays where Donye perfectly timed the snap count and got in the backfield like before the play even started, right? So that was massive. And on the inside as well, Jamal Liggett and Trevor Harmison both played great games. I mean, some of the best ball I've seen them play at UTSA, and both of these guys are really good. And then behind them, Avery Morris came in the fourth quarter. He had some great pass rushes as well.
Yes.
Demetrius French had that 4th down stop that should have really sealed the game for UTSA, the one that got overturned.
Demetrius Allen, Martavius French. Yeah.
So,
yes, man. Yes, the defense is just absolutely stellar. They were rock solid the entire game. U of H had such a hard time scoring. I mean, we held them to 7 points through the first half, and then even into the second half, it wasn't until very late into the ball game that they were able to force the tie and sort of put UTSA's back against the wall. Defense was just outstanding. But I think it goes to what you said earlier. They just ran out of gas in overtime. There was only so much they could do. That defense was on the field a lot through those 4 quarters, man. U of H literally had the ball the entirety of the fourth quarter. The defense was on the field so much, and yet still able to provide the output that they did, despite the work capacity being so freaking high. I mean, just unbelievable outing from those guys.
Yeah, I was hearing a lot of people say, "Oh, Clayton Tune's running all over them. Why don't they put a spy on Clayton Tune?" I went back and I watched the game as I always do. If you subscribe to the Patreon, you can unlock my film breakdowns that I do every week. And it's pretty clear UTSA did have at least, a shallow zone or a spy directly over Tune. But Tune runs a 4.5, man, and he played a great game. And I think UTSA's linebackers just couldn't keep up with him, from both a speed perspective and from a fatigue perspective. I didn't think it was like a tactical or schematic error on the part of UTSA that Tune had all those rushing yards. It was just like the nature of the beast of Tune being that great of an athlete and that game being so demanding to those linebackers that, and you can watch any college football game, right? Like if you have a dual threat quarterback and the game's on the line, they're going to get more running yards in the fourth quarter and overtime than they're going to do in the first and the second quarter. So I don't know. I just want to speak on that real quick because I know it is a hot topic on the message boards and on social media and stuff. But I thought Jess Lepp called a really great game on the defensive side of the ball for UTSA, and I was a little worried about him being like the first time play caller on defense, with Rod Wright having moved on. But I was really encouraged by what I saw. Good mix of zone and man principles. A lot of unique blitzes from all kinds of different angles. We saw delayed blitzes as well. We saw a lot of stunts and stuff like that. So it was a very advanced playbook on defense. Yeah. And, Clayton Tune's a veteran. He was able to read that stuff and react to it. He didn't panic in the pocket. But most of the quarterbacks UTSA is going to play this year are not that experienced at the collegiate
Not
level.
that advanced. No way.
That includes the guy in Austin too.
Right.
He already threw, I think, a pick six against ULM. Talking about Quinn Ewers at UT Austin. Not to get you guys, overly pumped up or anything. But man, Clayton Tune played a heck of game, and I thought the UTSA defense was just stellar. And it's really a testament to Tune that he was able to have what success that he did.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with saying that's the best quarterback opponent on UTSA schedule. And yeah, he absolutely was phenomenal in that game. But look, the defense played outstanding, and flipping it to the other side of the ball, the offense was just as, if not even more so, stellar. Frank Harris, CUSA Player of the Week, 337 yards through the air. I think another 71 or 73 yards with his feet, 4 touchdowns altogether through the game. But I mean, threading a needle, unbelievable pinpoint passing. I mean, to a degree that I hadn't seen even last year. Last year he had some unbelievable throws, but man, there was a pass. There was a pass on to Cephas on that overtime, and then there was a touchdown pass to Clark that were just, I mean, between 3 UTSA defensive backs' hands, and I mean, unbelievable ball placement. Then the falling out of the end zone to Corian Clark, unbelievable ball placement. Just phenomenal passing, just laser sharp. He's really come a long way as a quarterback, man. He's astounding to watch. Really, the leader of the team. But you're seeing it now without the ground attack, without the run game, just how important to the offense Frank Harris is, right?
I think it was one of Frank's best games at UTSA. When you look at the struggles the offensive line had, which we're certainly going to get to here in a second, he was under duress almost every drop back. I mean, the only time he had time to sit in the pocket is when Houston only sent 3 guys, right? And then UTSA could double team a little bit. But man, the amount of pressure that he faced, and whether he was standing tall in the pocket and taking a hit and getting the ball out, throwing the ball away, or taking off and run, I thought his decision making was nearly impeccable. My only tiny gripes is there were 2 plays in the first half that he should have tucked and run that he tried to pass. There was one, I think, to Zakari on the sideline, and then there was another one where he tried like a shovel pass that kind of went behind Brendan Brady a little bit. Both of those plays, both of those plays, he probably could have picked up 5 or 6 yards and had a successful play.
Brain farts for sure.
Yeah, not a big deal whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just an amazing game from him, and it's looking like UTSA might have to redraw the offense a little bit given what we've seen from the offensive line and the early going.
Right.
But I think having a quarterback like Frank makes that sustainable and something that's doable, right?
It gives you the flexibility to do it, right? And at least presents it to you as an option on the table, and even that one interception, right? That was a batted pass, more so on the offensive line than it was on Frank's ball placement. And
wait.
Could have gone higher up. Yeah.
No, I went back to the interception. That was not an offensive line mistake. At the time, I thought Vinley Tadafu missed his assignment, but I went back and blocked, and Brendan Brady was matched up 1-on-1 with like their captain edge rusher.
Oh, that's right. And he got popped back, and that's right. That's on your film. That's right. It was.
It's like, if that's Brendan's assignment, you got to get a block, right? But it's not really a good position to be in to have
a mismatch. Absolutely
responsible for blocking a 260-pound guy coming off the edge with a full head of steam. The defense is going to win that matchup almost every time, right? So to me, maybe they should have checked out of that play or something. I don't know. But it was surprised me when I back and watched that it was not an offensive line miscue, but rather, Brady getting asked to make a block. That's probably too difficult for a running back to take on.
I agree with you. Frank Harris, perhaps his best game as a Roadrunner. Passing performance all the way around wise, just dude, unbelievable. What the passes that he was making was, I mean, it was just astounding. And that sequence, bro, the last 23 seconds of regulation, that was perhaps the most impressive offensive output in UTSA history. Those 2 passes, those 3 plays were just unbelievable, man. I couldn't even wrap my head around it watching it. I thought for sure there was no chance we were even going to get a shot at taking that field.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
with
hey,
no timeouts.
shout out to the crowd for sticking around for that last drive. I saw a pretty good amount of people head to the concourse, but for the most part, the crowd stuck around because
Yeah.
they've seen this team do it before.
Yeah.
Obviously the UAB game, there was the drive. So that was pretty cool to see that people still had enough, faith in Frank to get down the field and get that field goal. So that was cool. But man, that was a really special moment.
It was such a
Just
special moment, man.
the ball placement from Frank, the hustle to get back up to the line and clock that ball was awesome.
Yeah. And, I go back and we talk about, the turning points in the game, and it really was a back and forth match, especially when you get down to that fourth quarter and the overtimes and even getting down there into the third quarter. It was really, really, but there was that sequence of the batted pass that ended up being an interception. I think it was like they turned around on the very next play and threw a beautiful touchdown pass. And I can't remember, I think it's Manjack is the receiver. He had like a one-handed grab out of the back of the end zone. That sequence gave U of H the juice. And I don't think they ever lost it after that. We got a little bit of our juice back, but they never ever lost it after that two-play sequence. And I think it was at that point that, man, I was kind of in a really, really, but even going into overtime, I wasn't ecstatic about our chances going into overtime. I wanted the win in regulation because it just didn't feel good after that interception touchdown sequence. It was rough, real rough.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think getting into overtime too showed that, Houston's depth is probably still quite a bit better than UTSA's, right? They just look fresher down the stretch. I don't know if they rotated more guys than UTSA did, or if they just have more guys that can go for longer or what, but that's something that stood out to me. I thought there were some fatigue issues on UTSA side, especially on defense. It seems like guys, especially the linebacker position, slowed down. They were like a step slower later in the game. And, we saw a lot of guys go down with cramps and stuff like that, got the wind knocked out of them. So they left it all out in the field. There's no denying that, man. The guys gave it all they had, right? So and that's another thing I wanted to mention earlier for my general takeaways. I think like now UTSA fully understands what it's going to take to get to that next level, where like you're in and out of the top 25 every year. You're in contention for the New Year's Six Bowl. Maybe you got a small shot at playoff, which I guess has changed. Maybe you have a feasible shot at playoff nowadays.
Right.
I guess we can talk about that on the Patreon bonus episode this week too. But I think now Coach Traylor has something where he can go to them and be like, hey, look, as a head coach, I made my mistakes in this game. And, we had our shortcomings as a team. This is what Houston has shown us, like where we're missing. Like these are the things we need to correct to get to the next level where Houston is at, where you can come into the season ranked top 25 in the preseason because your brand is so strong and you're so respected nationally for what you put on film and the wins that you rack up. So that was great for me to see. Like you just got that sense of encouragement that like, look, we're legit, we're as good as Houston, but we can't beat them, and we know why we didn't beat them, and it's all correctable, right? It's all
right, because they know they should have won that game. They know they should have won that game. And dude, and if you watch that roundtable interview, Jeff Traylor's energy is low in that interview.
He's beat up, man.
He's distraught, man, and you don't ever see that sort of energy from him, but. Man, especially at the beginning when he kind of is first answering questions, he is so somber and kind of just answering very black and white, right? And the energy is totally deflated, totally gone. And you don't see that from him. And he even makes a comment that, it's an extremely tough loss. He talks about the dark energy in the locker room right now, which it's not necessarily dudes are beating themselves up, but dudes are pissed off and they're upset, and yeah, man, I think the program knows they let this one get away, man. They absolutely let this one get away. And you saw how good this team played. You saw how unbelievably they were able to move the ball whatever they needed to on offense. That freaking 23-second drill, everything that Frank Harris was getting done. I mean, everything was set up right for UTSA to win this game. We had some crucial errors on the staff. And oh my gosh, it hurts. I mean, it's a painful loss. And I know Jeff Traylor has not had to go through a real, true heartbreaker at UTSA yet. I mean, this is really the first heartbreaker. We got our lids blown off at UNT, never had a chance against San Diego, but this was a back.
BYU was close, but it never really felt like that was
right.
Our win.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this one was different.
This was a rip your heart out loss, man. And we hadn't had that yet. You feel like in order to take that next step, how can you take that next step without a real heartbreaker on your resume? You got to go through that together, right? And finally, this team has gone through that together. And so big picture, right? We needed it, right? We needed that reality check that you're close, not quite U of H yet.
Yep. Man, that's beautifully said. It's a little somber. There's optimism in the statement, but we should lighten the mood a little bit with a cumbia break, don't you think?
Yes, please.
All right, let's do it. Roll the cumbia. All right, Adrian, a few more things I kind of want to talk about on the offense. And let's also, after we wrap up on offense, let's come back and talk about some of the newcomers on defense as well. But I think the story of the game on the offensive side of the ball was Makai Hart going down. I think it was in the second series of the game. UTSA was already thin out offensive tackle. I think Payne Hibbert, the transfer they brought in from Northwestern, sounds like he might be out for the year. Haven't really heard anything of him as a Roadrunner, right? And then obviously Spencer Buford has gone on to the NFL doing amazing things, right? Probably going to start for the 49ers. And, it was looking like Demetrius Allen and was it Ernesto Almaraz? I think were the two that were battling it out at left tackle.
It was Ben Rios that was listed on the depth chart. It was
well, I just meant like coming
Allen and Ben Rios. But coming into fall, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then suddenly Vinley Tatafu, moves over from guard to tackle.
Right. And
you didn't get the warm, fuzzy feelings about offensive tackle heading into week one anyways, right?
Yes.
And then to have an all-conference level tackle go down to what looked to be a pretty serious injury in like the sixth play of the game, man, that was an absolute dagger. And I think there's a lot of cause for concern at this position group. You see Frankie Martinez out there playing most of the snaps at right tackle. He's a walk-on. I think he's only a sophomore.
That's a walk-on, man.
Undersized.
It's a walk-on, yeah.
You don't expect a champion team to be playing an undersized sophomore walk-on as starting tackle, right?
Exactly that, yeah.
Big loss, man. It really stings. It really stings.
And it was something that was an issue through the whole game, right? I mean, that absence was felt immediately the second that Hart went down, and Traylor's already come out and said Hart's going to be out for a significant amount of time. So I think you can go ahead and just, pin that in for sometime in late October, maybe even November when you say significant. That sounds like month plus when you say that.
Months.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was bad, man. And we felt that there was a hole there. That hole did not get filled. There was a lot of pressure coming through that side of the offensive line. And, a big reason why U of H was able to slow down probably UTSA's offensive attack, and certainly our ground game, right? Our ground game definitely felt that. And dude, that's a really, really big concern for us going forward. And maybe the biggest concern of the offense as we look towards the rest of the season.
Yeah, 100%. We mentioned Ernesto Almaraz. I mean, obviously he was out there for a bit. I guess he's also dealing with an injury. Doesn't sound as severe as what Hart is dealing with and what Hibbert's dealing with. But he couldn't go the full game, right? And, you just hope that, he can get back into the rotation and it's not too serious. We don't really know what's going on with Demetrius Allen. It's some kind of off-field issue. I think he was at the game, so I don't think he's like kicked off the team or anything dramatic like that.
Sure.
But boy, could UTSA use it back this week against Army. I don't know what's going on with that situation. I don't know what's in the cards, but it's bleak, dude. It's bleak. There's no way to sugarcoat it, man. I mean, you got a walk-on sophomore off the tackle, and then behind him, you got two true freshmen. I mean, that's your depth chart right now.
Dude, that's heavy. Yeah.
That's very heavy. I mean, I think you might be at a point where you got to move some guards out to tackle. And it sucks because I feel like Matt Maddox is always having to deal with this as UTSA's offensive line coach. I think Trent Traylor coaches the tackles as well. I mean, UTSA hasn't had a healthy, stable offensive line throughout the entire Jeff Traylor era, and it just continues to be a revolving door at that position, man. And I think it's really going to slow down the offense this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. It's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with big time.
Now, and on a more positive note, I did see some stuff from Vinny Tatefu that I think that there's hope that he can be a pretty good tackle. I don't know if I quite see him being, on a Makai Hart level. I'm not sure if he's that quick, right? But I think from a strength perspective, it's looking good. He had a couple of holding calls against Houston, but you got to keep in mind, this is one of the best defensive lines in the whole country. Right?
Well, and look, even losing Hart in the first quarter, Sac Avenue didn't get their first sack till the third quarter.
Yeah.
And the offensive line still was able to hold their ground. And this is by far going to be one of the most extreme pass rushing teams that we're going to have to see, right? That it was Houston. I don't know if we're not going to see another pass rush that's like that. So where this really, really hurts is the ground attack. And I think that's what's going to have to sort of figure itself out. But I saw Treylon Smith break about 5 tackles on a couple of carries that he was making. He was doing a big boy running out there. So, maybe it won't be such as glaring of a hole because of the rest of the talent that we can figure it out with other places. And it's just, one of those weaknesses we're gonna have to deal with, right? Yeah. But it might not get much stronger. It's one that we're just gonna have to deal with.
On paper, it's code red, absolute disaster. But this coaching staff has shown that they can make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak. And then they've showed again and again that, the offensive line is going to mold its way into a strong unit, right?
Yeah.
At least a good unit, right? So I think you got to have your trust in Maddox and Kurt Traylor that they're going to find a solution. They're going to find guys that are going to give it their all. And yeah, the ceiling might not be as high as it would be with Makai Hart out there. I mean, he's great talent. I mean, I think he's a guy that could get NFL looks, if he can come back and play at the highest level he's capable of playing of. I mean, he's a special talent, right? So are they going to find a guy as good as Makai that can just step in and play this year? Probably not. But I think the offense can still be highly successful. And like we were saying earlier, Frank is playing so well right now that he can kind of bail out that position a little bit, right?
For sure. 100%. Look, it was 0-0 whenever Makai Hart went out. And
great point.
UTSA went up 21-7 on U of H, and Sac Avenue only got to Frank Harris 3 times, whereas UTSA's nasty front seven, who we've had all these question marks about, got to Clayton 4 times. And probably if they would have got home, that number would have been closer to 6 had we got home a couple more times. And so, yeah, man, I mean, I think we'll be okay big picture wise. What was really, really concerning and a big reason why we lost this game is we had some errors from a guy that we typically see play flawless football. And that was Akari Franklin with about 3 extremely crucial drops happening on 4th downs for first down conversions. I mean, dude, these were very, very uncharacteristic. He was by himself on a few of these catches. And it was like, that classic case, you hear footsteps, a little bit of nervousness. I don't know what it was. They were physical with Zakari at the line of scrimmage, maybe, but man, there's no excuse for those drops that he had, Jared. No excuse. Some of those were in the numbers. Some of them were leaping catches, but some of those were in the numbers. That 4th down was on the numbers.
Yeah, there were 2 4th and 1s that he dropped. So uncharacteristic. I went back and I watched all those drops to see how the ball placement was, Some of them were a little high, but they still hit him in the hands, and he can jump high enough to catch the ball.
Right.
A normal Zakari game, he's going to come down with those. He's probably not going to get any yards after the catch, but it was really hard to comprehend. I mean, I think that he's already matched his drop total from last season after 1 game. It's just so crazy how he was so automatic last year. I do suspect that Houston got into his head a little bit. They were extremely handsy at the line of scrimmage. I mean, there were so many uncalled defensive holding penalties that went past.
Oh,
I think Zakari got really frustrated, right?
yeah.
Um,
UTSA
I
didn't
guess,
get any calls going their way on Saturday, man. I mean, there were even some reviews that were questioned about. I mean, it was tough, I mean, and that's something that you have to deal with,
mhm.
right? Naturally, it's something that you've got to deal with, but it was just so uncharacteristic to see Zakari drop the ball like that, especially the ones that hit him in the numbers. Those 4th and 1s, I mean, they were egregious drops, man. I
They really
mean,
were.
yeah, whenever he actually got the ball into his hands, there really wasn't any defenders on him. Then he kind of took like a half step and the ball sort of came out when the contact was made. I mean, just bad. Not something that you see. And those are plays that absolutely change the outcome of this game.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. One of those 4th down conversions, I mean, UTSA was almost in field goal position on that play, so that's almost directly taking points off the board on that drop. So really brutal stuff. It's really hard to wrap your head around, who knows what he's looked like in practice, but I just really think it was some kind of mental thing for Zakari. I think he's going to bounce back big time against Army. And it's just funny that we're having this discussion. I'm sure Zakari's having this discussion, with his coaches and friends and family and stuff. He still had over 100 receiving yards.
He still had 10 receptions for 100 yards, right?
Yeah.
That's still ridiculous. 10,
the standard for Zakari is so high, right? So, I think he's probably got the right people in his corner to tell him, like, look, man, you just like take a little stress off. Like, you had the ability to do this. Just go out there and play ball. Don't get in your head. Don't think about it. Just see the ball, catch the ball, run with the ball in that order, and you're golden.
While we're talking about Zakari's output, we've got to mention Joshua Cephas, 7 receptions, 106 yards, touchdown, 51-yard catch and run, baby. Put the burners on. The dude was absolutely electric. He caught every single thing that came to him, and his hands were like glue. And Cephas played phenomenal. He did a great job of getting open, extending plays. Dude was phenomenal. And then DeCorian Clark with his 2 touchdown catches too, right? And then do we have another member of the University of Hands after Oscar Cardenas's leaping catch on the 4th quarter game tying drive? Holy cow, he went up there and got that thing, bro. He went up there and got it, and he was downfield. I mean, he was running that route. I mean, wow, extreme. You don't see a tight end going up and doing that too often, man. It's a hell of a play. Hell of a play.
Yeah, and all those guys blocked well too, right? I mean, especially downfield, you saw JT throwing blocks, you saw Zakari throwing blocks. Trayvon Bradley had a great block. I think that was on Frank's touchdown run. And man, Trayvon looked like he was shot out of a cannon as well. I think they threw like a little screen pass to him. I really thought he was going to take off and take it to the house, right? Only thing is, I want to see a little Tyke, man. Give me some Tyke action.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he didn't get involved quite yet. Not quite yet.
That's just the beauty of that position group at UTSA. Zakari had, I guess you could say, an off game with the drops, even though he still played well overall. But there's just so much talent out there that all those guys just rose to the occasion and made huge plays and made Houston's secondary look foolish at times. And that's not that they're bad, man. It's like these receivers are really that good. They've got a great quarterback, man. It's just fun to watch.
Yeah, and UTSA wins that game. I mean, I really think Frank Harris and UTSA's passing connection is really the talk of the town, right? And that's really the reason why they're able to pull that off. But we're gonna see some unbelievable accomplishments from this passing game. Probably stuff that you never imagined UTSA doing through the air 5 years ago is going to happen this year. It's going to be really fun to watch. High entertainment value.
Yeah, and I think on Patreon bonus episode this week, we'll dive a little bit more into like the X's and O's and the play calling on offense and all that. Which
Will Stein offense, baby. Yeah,
that's a discussion I'm very excited to have. If you guys know me or listen to this podcast at all, I'm going to nerd out on that stuff. But yeah, absolutely. So to wrap things up today, I wanted to talk about some of the newcomers that we saw make their debut for UTSA. Sticking on the offensive side of the ball, what did you see of Treylon Smith, man? I mean, he didn't, I think you probably had the numbers in front of you more so than I do, but he didn't have a huge day as far as running total goes, but he was out there a lot. I mean, he definitely seemed to be the primary back for UTSA.
Yeah. So he was, he had 13 attempts, whereas Brendan Brady only had 6. And Frank Harris, of course, scrambling whenever he's had the opportunities to. So he was the workhorse of the day. And yeah, sure, it was hard for that offensive line to get pushed, for him to have the holes to kind of hit. but you certainly saw his physicality as a running back whenever he did have the ball. I mean, the dude was hard to bring down. Not only that, but he was elusive. I mean, he was looking for lanes. He was making his way, sidestepping, lateral, trying to find him, trying to get to him, and then had guys falling off of his shoulders while he was making his way over there. And so it really does seem like an extremely versatile back. He could be a tank, but he can be elusive as well. So, I mean, I think if he gets a little bit of push from the offensive line, if that can sort of figure itself out, I mean, this running game, doesn't really take a step back. The dude seems to have all the talent in the world whenever he did have those successful runs. But yeah, I mean, it was difficult. It was difficult for him to move the ball behind the offensive line on Saturday. It was.
I'm extremely excited to see Treylon Smith against a non-Houston defensive front. He had 34 rushing yards. 31 of those yards came after initial contact.
Wow.
That's wild.
That's a big boy.
Pro Football Focus has an man, I can never pronounce this right. Elusive rating. I was going to say elusivity. But 100 is the highest that you can have. He was a 91.
Dang.
Right. So he was breaking tackles, man. He's shifty. And there were a couple, man. He was real close to breaking it. Real close. And, I think even outside of the concerns with the personnel on the offensive line, I just think when you've moved guys around so much that there's just like a technique and a communication aspect that can only be resolved by having the same 5 guys out there consistently over enough time where they kind of develop that chemistry with each other and kind of know how to chip off their combo blocks and stuff like that.
Sure.
That's going to come for UTSA no matter what they settle on as far as what that front 5 looks like after Makai Hart's injury. But I think while, let's say Frankie Martinez steps up as the starting right tackle, right? Maybe he's not going to blow guys off the line of scrimmage like Makai Hart does. If he can just get the right ankles and get to the right location, get to the second level when he needs to, I think Treylon has shown that he's shifty enough that if you just give him a split second of a block, he's going to be able to make that work and get some pretty big gains. And, all the credit in the world to Houston's front 7, man, they were very much lived up to the billing. They didn't have probably as many sacks as most people would expect them to. I think a lot of that has to do with Frank Harris, but they were every bit as good as I expected them to be. So even though Treylon didn't get the big yardage, he didn't have the breakaway runs. I think just from a pure, toting the rock perspective, he showed me a lot of promise that I think he could really blow up against some less stout defenses.
Yeah. And in Skull Conference USA, he's going to be an absolute monster for sure.
Yeah. Offensive line might hold him back from reaching his potential, right? With all they've had to deal with, but for his actual individual talent, man, I think he's going to live up to the billing for sure.
He's going to give you some output without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any other newcomers on offense that we didn't cover? I mean, I think he was really the only major notable one, right?
Yeah. No one really quite sticks out to me.
I guess Bentley, we did talk about him a little bit. He didn't have a great day, but he's only 19 years old, JUCO transfer. That was the first game he ever played at left tackle.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. I think it's plenty to build on. And again, really tough assignments. He's going against some of the best defensive linemen in the country. I mean, they're probably going to have several guys end up in the NFL off that Houston roster. And, he held his own. He didn't get embarrassed or anything like that. So there's reason for optimism there for sure. We'll see how he does heading into conference play.
Worth highlighting special teams player of the week, Mr. Jared Sackett, hitting the game tying, 3 for 3 on extra points, 2 for 2 on field goals, 1 game tying, 1 in that first overtime. Which really, that first overtime was UTSA's, I think, only chance to escape with that win. And man, we had one pass that kind of sailed out up against the side of the, I think Clark had made the catch, but we were just outside the end zone on it, man. But just brutal.
What a cool feeling for Jared. First game back as a Roadrunner, you're back home, your family's in the stands, I assume so. They're from Texas. I hope they come to the game. But man, you come back and there's 38K and the stands, you're kicking into the student section, dude. It's just why did I ever leave? It was just teleport, right back to 2017 or whatever it was when he was knocking down, these 40 plus yarders with no difficulty whatsoever. So,
but a
that was
totally
awesome to
different
see.
Alamo Dome environment for him, though,
Yeah,
right? I mean, imagine him
yeah.
being in there like, wow, this place has changed a whole lot. Yeah,
He's like, oh man, they
yeah.
got the marble, what do you call it? Countertops now, They got the drawers that when you let go, they softly close instead of slamming. Like they did some renovations to the
Jared
Alamo
Saget said,
Dome,
I could get used to this, son. Yeah, dude, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, so pump for Jared. I'm not much of a lip reader, but when I watched the CBS Sports broadcast, they had the camera on Jared after hitting that the game tire to send it overtime, and yeah, he was pumped. You could tell.
Oh yeah, that was big.
Yeah, but I think when we talk about newcomers, obviously the defense had a lot more new guys stepping in, and I think there was a lot of room for concern. How are these guys going to fit in? Are they going to mesh? Are they going to gel right away? And I was like, man, how is Joe Evans going to play defensive? The 5 tech at 340 pounds. Is he quick enough? Wow, man! All those guys stepped up and answered with a resounding,
they were awesome,
impressive performance. I guess to start with Joe Evans, he was out there a lot. I don't have the snap totals right in front of me at this second, but like at least half the game he was out there at that defensive tackle spot out of the 5 tech, and man, he was a people mover, man. He was like, they kept saying he has heavy hands in all the interviews and stuff. And you could see it, man. No one's moving him around. And in fact, he's moving the line of scrimmage backwards into the backfield. That's going to be massive, especially going into Army and their triple option. You get a 1 yard tackle for loss on the first down, throws their whole game plan out of rhythm. Right?
Yep.
So, man, I think Evans is just going to demolish these Conference USA linemen, dude. I think he's going to throw them around like rag dolls. Maybe not every Conference USA lineman, but some of the less talented and smaller ones, I think he's going to really eat them up for lunch, man. And I loved when Evans was at tackle and they had Lamont McDougal at nose tackle.
Yes,
those guys played really
lethal.
Well off each other.
Yeah,
that was a lethal combination, man. Several plays where both of those guys just absolutely like pushed the whole line of scrimmage back in unison. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was beautiful. That was epic. Yeah, I think there's a lot of promise there on that up front. That pass rush is really going to be something menacing, as it always is, right? But really, I mean, we were concerned about maybe it taking a step back, going down a notch. That's not going to be the case at all after what we saw against Houston.
No, I don't think so. It really seems like our best case hopes came true, where we were saying like there might not be a clearance 6 on this roster, a guy that's going to get you, 2-3 sacks
right
in a single game, but you hope that those pressures, those sacks, those tackle for loss just get evenly distributed amongst all the guys that are playing. And that's exactly what we saw. UTSA was getting to Tune repeatedly. They were hitting him. They were bringing him down. They were forcing his throws early. And I don't think a single player had more than 2 pressures. Right. So to have that kind of, pass rush come from a wide array of players makes it all the more hard for offenses to game plan around, because it's not just like, there's number 9 on the defense. We got to double team him. We got to chip him. We got to throw screens where he's at. Now you don't really know where the pressure is coming from. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think Coach Lip did a great job dialing up that pressure and calling those blitzes in with the linebackers and all of that. So really exciting stuff, I think.
Yeah, absolutely great. Yeah. But we're in good shape on defense.
And I think the guy who had the best game on defense, Nick Troy Fortune. Wow. That was one of the best games I've ever seen from a UTSA cornerback. And that's against a really, really strong passing attack.
It's all over the field. He was all over the field.
Yeah, not only in coverage, but also, helping out against the run.
Yes.
Someone else gave up a catch. He's making the play after the catch, run across the field and get a tackle. Physical, hard tackling, driving guys to the ground, leading with a shoulder, keeping his feet pumping. He hits like a linebacker.
Yeah, and he keeps the ball carrier in front of him, which is just so important, man. A lot of times you see these 5 and 3 and 4 and 5 extra yards that are picked up. He did such a good job of keeping the ball carrier in front of him and bringing him down where he was. Yeah, a very, very physical machine when it came to tackling. There's a lot of promise, Nick Troy. He might be one of the anchors of the defense come, mid-season into the season.
No, he already is. He is the starter. He played the most snaps and coverage of any player on UTSA's roster. Yeah. I have it pulled up right now. He played 41 snaps in coverage, which leads the team. They only threw at him 4 times. 4 times. Only 2 of those were catches, and they went for a total of 7 yards. That is
secondary
pure
was nasty.
domination.
Look,
Elite.
there's a reason why Clayton Tune had to take off scrambling a lot of the time. And
he had no
not
other
only
option.
was it because of the pass rush, but he didn't have any options to throw it to. UTSA's secondary was covering him like white on rice. I mean, we were all over UTSA's receivers all 4 quarters, man. All 4 quarters. And it wasn't until Tune like realized that he could start to scramble did he finally start to find his rhythm. But it even took a few quarters for him to get the confidence to do that. I mean, we really took the passing attack totally away. I think they only had 200 yards passing as opposed to Frank Harris's like 337.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a total. Now, the output was way, way higher on the UTSA side, right? And everyone talks about Tune and Dell being one of the best wide receiver quarterback connections in the country. And we took that away entirely, man.
Yeah, totally. I know we were supposed to talk about the newcomers, but I still kind of consider Clifford Chapman a newcomer in my head because he played so little last year before he got hurt. I thought he played a really great game. He did give up 1 touchdown. It was a play right outside the red zone where Rashad came down, to play like a nickel corner, and he exchanged his coverage with Clifford Chapman. And Chapman, he just seemed confused, right? He ended up getting stuck one-on-one with Dell. Dell runs a post route, there's a corner route, sorry. And Chapman just hesitated. I don't think he understood what his assignment was, right? And that was very reminiscent of the 2021 UTSA secondary. So after that play, I was like, oh boy, here we go. I really thought Tune was going to start bombing it downfield and get a lot of yardage, but really just a one-time slip up. There might have been 1 or 2 other plays where the communication was a little bit off, but that exchange between the cornerbacks and the safeties, especially with the amount of zone coverage that UTSA was playing, was really impressive and really encouraging. Also thought Kelechi Nwachukwu also showed a lot of improvement as well. He did have that one defensive pass interference call, which I didn't really like. I hate when the ball's underthrown and the defenders between the ball and the receiver. What can you possibly do to not get called DPI in today's game when the ball's in that situation? But I thought he played well. Maybe he could have hit Clayton Tune a little bit higher or harder on that last scramble that gave Houston the win. But, that's really nitpicking at that point. I think, coming into his last year, getting voted into the single digit, I think he's playing the best football of his career, right? And so to see some actual depth in the quarterback position, super, super encouraging. And, Ken Robinson played a little bit of safety as well for the first time. And, I think he looked good there as well. So, man, I'm so fired up for the secondary. And, I'm really excited to see them play against West Kentucky's air raid and see, that's going to be the true test right there, right? For a team that's going to commit to bombing it downfield. How are they going to hold up against a team like that? I think it's going to be a really fun challenge to watch.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. But this one hurts, man. There was no reason why we should have lost this freaking game, dude.
It does.
We were the better team. We should have won. Too many mistakes made on the staff. Too many mistakes made with a couple of drops here and there, not converting on 4th downs. And man, we just gave it away. And it hurts. It burns, and it seems like there's those games that we should have won every single year. This is one that we should have won. And it kills you. It really, really kills you because this one was important. And I'm so anti-moral victory. And so I know everyone feels really, really good about how we played this game. And you should. This is a very good team. It's an awesome team. We're going to be unbeatable in Conference USA. But damn, this one got away from us, man. And it sucks. Yeah. It sucks. It really sucks.
It does. But man, I'm just so optimistic about this team, having seen them on the field. And I think I've made my concern for offensive tackle very clear, right? But this team is just so freaking good, dude. They're going to find a way around that. Yeah. The culture is going to pull them through. They've got talent everywhere. Besides the coaching mistakes that we saw, the team was well coached overall. They played a good game for the most part. It's just like, man, those few mistakes were so killer, right? And the margin of error is so thin against Houston, but they're going to have more cushion against the rest of the schedule. So I'm fired up, man. I think this is a great game recap. I hope people enjoyed it. If you're not already a premium subscriber of ours, go sign up on Patreon. We got the bonus episode coming out this week. We're going to talk about this UH series and what maybe the future of that looks like, if there's reason for both teams to move forward with it or not. We're going to really dive deep into Will Stein's offense and how he called that game for UTSA and some of the differences and changes that we saw compared to Barry Looney's offense. I want to talk a little bit more about game day experience too as well. There are a couple things that I noticed this past weekend that I think are interesting, and we're talking about maybe some things that UTSA can improve on a little bit. And we'll also talk a little Conference USA because we've got a little sample size from these teams listed in the conference. So I think it'd be a nice little bonus episode this week. And for as little as $5 a month, you'll gain access to Patreon and all of our locked posts on the website as well, and all that
film room
all
breakdowns,
that great stuff.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, thank you guys. If you don't already follow us on social media, please be sure to do so. We're at Alamo Audible on Twitter and at Alamo Audible everywhere else on the internet. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review on your podcast platform of choice, and check us out on alamoaudible.com. But of course, we'll be back to also preview Army this week. I forgot to mention that we always do split recap preview episodes, but there was too much to cover for Houston.
Yes.
So we split them up this week. We'll be doing 3 podcasts this week. Yes, it's true, folks. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell your tailgating buddies, tell your seat neighbors. 3 podcasts from Audible, and we'll be back to preview Army later this week. I thank you guys for your support, and we'll see you guys back next time.